boys, girls, today we are going to be painting a still life with apples. A still life is a painting of something that is still, something that does not move. So it couldn't be a person or an animal, it's an object that does not move, like maybe fruit or a jar or a bottle or a bowl. Artists would normally set up their still life somewhere in their studio, and then they could look at it and paint it. So we are going to do something similar to that today. You're going to be making something like this. You're going to need, if you have oil pastels, if not you can use crayons. If you are using oil pastels, you will need a little bit, this is baby oil, if you have it. If you don't have it, don't worry, it's still going to look nice. If you are using the baby oil, Q-tips, and then to finish up we will be painting. So I have 3 colours of paint. You can have any 3 you like. I have one for my table, one for my wall, and one for my cloth. So I have 3 colours of paint, and I have tempera paint, but you can use whichever paint you like. Okay, so I hope you're ready to make your still life. You're going to need a piece of paper that you're going to have landscape in front of you, not portrait, landscape, and we're going to start by drawing the apples. If you want green apples, you'll make your outline in green. If you want to do a red apple, you'll make your outline in red. You might want to do some green, some red. So I'm going to start by making 4 or 5 apples on my page. I'm just going to have a little look at the shape of my apple. It's not quite round. It's got a little bump here. So when I'm drawing that, I'm going to think about that. Also, you want your apples to be about the size of your fist. My fist is a little bigger than yours, so I'm going to make my apples smaller than my fist, but your apple's about the size of your fist. I'm going to do bump, bump, and then I'm just going to connect it round. Remember, they don't have to be exactly round and they don't all have to be the same. I want some of my apples to overlap. That means when they go on top like that, that's overlapping. We've done that in artwork before. So this apple is going to go behind. And now this one is overlapping. Maybe if I want a green apple, I will use my green to do the outline. My green apple is going to come right here. I have 3. I think maybe another green one. 4, they're overlapping, and then one more little one here. Okay, so now comes the fun part where you need your oil if you have it. I'm using baby oil, but you could probably use something like vegetable oil or olive oil if you don't have this. If you don't have the oil, if you're not using oil pastels, don't worry about it. Your still life is going to still look beautiful. I have my Q-tips, and I'm going to first of all make a little yellow dot on each apple and a little white dot next to it in each corner. It's all going to be in this corner on this side. So yellow and white. This is where the light is shining on my apples, and it's going to make them look more realistic and rounder. You're going to see how it looks when you colour them. Okay, so apples can be red, they can be green, they can be yellow. Sometimes apples have a bit of both colours on. So this apple has got sort of yellowy colours, it's got red, it's got darker, and you can see, I don't know if you can see from here, but I can see a little white dot when my light is shining on my apple. Okay, so I'm going to start to colour this one, and I'm just going to use my red. This apple is going to be red and yellow. So I want to go right up to the edge, and I'm going to use my darker red as well. Maybe it's going to have a little bit of yellow in it also. So now you get to use your oil if you're doing that part. I'm going to dip my Q-tip in my oil just a little bit, and I'm using this to blend the oil. You don't want too much or it just gets too wet. And you don't want to go round and round and round. You want to make small strokes, just like you're colouring or painting. All this does is it blends the oil pastels together, and it gives a nice shiny look to your apples. And it's a new technique. So, one apple done. I'm going to continue to do the rest of my apples. The green one, maybe I will use a light green and a bit of darker green. If you're using more than one colour, you don't want to do stripes on your apples. I've never seen stripy apples, but you might see apples that have spots on. So maybe you could do some little spots and then colour right on top. Maybe these spots will be over here. And again, I'm going to take my Q-tip. I'm going to use the other side because I'm doing green. And I'm blending the colours together. When you do this part, you want to do nice, soft strokes. Don't go too hard, you might rip your paper. Okay, let me continue with my apples. Okay, now I have my apples done. I want to make my horizon line or my table line. So I'm going to choose a colour. I'm going to choose blue because I'm using blue for my cloth. You can choose whichever colour of paint you have. My horizon line or my table line can't be down here or these apples would be floating. It has to be as high as my top apple. So I have to make sure this apple's the highest. My line has to go somewhere through that apple. So I'm going to start over here, go to the apple, stop, come out the other side, make the little line I can see in there, and on the other side. You could leave it like that if you want to have your apples on a table only. So this would be the table and this would be the wall behind. Or if you'd like, you can have them on a cloth like I had in my example. So if you want to make the cloth, I'm just going to start at the horizon line and I'm using a wavy line. My cloth maybe goes all the way off the table and then it comes round this side. So this part is table, this part is cloth. I want to put some lines on the cloth to look like folds in the cloth. So I'm just going to do, again, little wavy lines. I'm making a little thick. Not too many, just where I think folds might be. Okay, and there's one last thing I want to do before we paint. I want to give a little shadow under each apple. Just a very light shadow. I'm going to take a black crepa, or you can do the crayon. Very lightly, I'm just going to make a little shadow under each apple. I'm not pressing hard. Okay, so now we are ready to paint. Oh, no we're not. I want to put something on my wall. You could leave your wall plain, but I'm going to put some stripes on my wall behind. So I'm just going to use my crepa to do that, and I'm going to be painting right over the top. Okay, so now we're ready to paint. I'm going to start off by doing my wall, and I've chosen yellow. So I'm just going to go straight into my yellow, wipe some of the excess paint off, and then I can paint right on top of these lines because they're oil pastel. The paint will not stick to them. I can come right down to my apples. The paint won't stick to them either. I'm going to carefully go around them. Okay, I'm going to clean my brush. Tap, tap, tap. And I'm going to use blue for my cloth. Again, you can use any colour that you have, and you can use any paint. If you have only watercolour, you can use watercolour, whichever paint you have. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to paint is my table. I'm using brown for my table, but again, you can use any colour you like. Okay, so there's your still life with apples. I hope you have fun making yours.